Welcome to this course Development Economics 2. Today's lecture is module 10 and the topic of today is gender and unequal treatment part 2. So what we learn here? Here we learn microeconomic theory and models on unequal sharing within household. Also we talk about sibling rivalry and widowhood related issues, and then we discuss policy issues, specifically what works and what we need, and then we lastly talk about political economy aspects. Now, first of all, we are entering to the microeconomic theory of unequal sharing. What do we mean by unequal sharing within household? Poor may not be able to share their poverty equally. What do we mean by that? Unequal sharing happens due to the fact that certain minimum amounts of nutrition, care and economic resources have to be devoted to each person to make life productive and healthy. So, that is why in situations of extreme poverty, equal division of household resources might help no one because the average amounts are far too small. The potential merit of unequal division is that it helps some individuals in the household to be minimally productive under extreme circumstances. So please try to understand the point. So in case of poverty, in case of abject poverty, if whatever little income is earned, if it is divided equally, then nobody may receive their minimum required consumption level, right? So in such a situation, if unequal division of income happens, then at least some persons from the household may go out and do some work, right? So lifeboat ethic comes into play. What do we mean by lifeboat ethic? Lifeboat ethic is like this: a lifeboat can hold only 2 persons, but there are 3 persons, 3 individuals to save. It means one person must die. So think about it. So, and let us take the first question here. What do you mean by a capacity curve? What do we mean by a capacity curve? This question is related to the microeconomic theory of unequal sharing in developing countries in case of poverty. So here is the model and here is the graph portraying capacity curve. What do we mean by capacity curve? Capacity curve basically summarizes the relationship between work capacity and income. And the shape of this curve, you can observe, the shape of this curve is not linear, it is a S-shaped curve, right? And why? Let us explain this shape of this capacity curve, why it is S-shaped. You see, when income is very low, close to zero, then you can observe that the close to zero, from close to zero, if income rises, then work capacity does not increase much, because whatever rise in income happens, whatever little consumption happens out of that, that needs to go for body maintenance. And then after a threshold of income, after a threshold level of increased income, if income rises further, then after body maintenance, then work capacity increases significantly and drastically at increasing rate. And beyond, as income rises, beyond a point threshold level of income, if income rises further, beyond a point for work capacity, diminishing returns sets in. It means if income rises further, the work capacity cannot increase too much beyond a point, right? Or work capacity may increase at a diminishing rate. So in the model on unequal sharing, we are using this capacity curve here. And the capacity curve gives us a clear idea of how the nutritional problem serves to promote unequal allocations. Look at this figure. In this figure, we are displaying the capacity curve marked by OAEB. The straight line OAB is drawn from the origin so that the line segment OA equals the line segment AB. So we have constructed the straight line in such a way that OA is equal to AB. The income level corresponding to capacity B is denoted by Y star. By construction, the income level corresponding to capacity A must be Y star by 2. So consider a household with 2 persons and identical capacity curves. In such a situation with total income Y star, consider 2 options. The household shares this income equally or one person consumes the entire income. Notice that by the construction of Y star, these 2 options yield exactly the same total work capacity for the household. By similar triangles, the height of B must be exactly twice that of A, right? Suppose now that the household has an income lower than Y star. In such a situation, something very interesting happens. Equal division means that each member gets Y by 2. Suppose an income Y which is lower than Y star. So there are also 2 options we are considering. Option 1 is equal division and option 2 is unequal division, or one person gets all the income. So equal division here means that each member gets Y by 2 and each person therefore has work capacity equal to the height of C. Total household capacity is therefore given by twice this height, which is just the height of the point D. Compare this to total household capacity if one person is allocated the entire income for consumption. It is the height of the point E which is greater. So that's the interesting part. So it follows that at incomes below the critical threshold Y star, unequal consumption allocations create greater household work capacity than equal allocations. So this is the most important point here, that for the threshold level of income Y star, if income is lower than Y star, in such a situation, unequal sharing is creating higher total level of work capacity for the household. Also at household incomes above the Y star, equal division does better than unequal division. The dotted curve ODB was constructed from the capacity curve. It tells us what household capacity is when household income is divided equally. So why is it happening? This is because it is the convex section of the capacity curve which captures the fact that certain minimal amounts are required as nutritional input before productivity gains kick in. So this model is basically arguing that in case of a threshold level of income, which is here the Y star, so poorer households who are earning lower income than Y star level, if they equally distribute that meager income, then whatever total household work capacity they can achieve more work capacity in total if they divide the income unequally. That's what has been argued in this model, in this microeconomic model of unequal sharing. And this is why we can say in developing countries, in the poorer regions, right, in household level unequal sharing happens. Okay. Now the first question, let us take the first question here. Who are the individuals who are so denied? shown so far that why unequal sharing happens in developing countries for among poor households. Now the question is, who are facing these disadvantages of unequal sharing? Who are at the receiving end? They are typically females, both adults and children. These are basically female members of the household. They are at the receiving end and they face the unequal sharing and they face the disadvantageous position. No one individual needs to make these hard decisions, but the discrimination will nevertheless manifest itself in the actions of every family member due to the underlying logic of discrimination, what we have already discussed. No one forcefully needs to discriminate anyone, but anyway, the discrimination will persist. Now, consider widows. Researchers found the loss of a husband can be devastating in economic terms unless the widow owns assets such as land. Now, the problems of widowhood. Let us discuss the particular problem of widowhood. So, a study from Bangladesh have argued that the results are striking in the study. Overall death rates jump by a factor of close to 3 if a woman is a widow rather than currently married. Widows who are heads of the households, the study have found widows who are heads of the household, they have performed relatively better than other widows who are not heads of the household. Intra-household discrimination, very important issue. Suppose for instance that women provide household tasks while men earn income. If household tasks, so these are powerfully prevalent social norms in developing countries, such as women must contribute mainly in the household task. Now, if these household tasks are not monetized or valued well, then lifeboat ethic may comes into play, right? Discrimination may happen. Also, even if women and men are both engaged in monetary employment, still if wages for women are low, then also discrimination and bias in the household may happen against women. Gender bias, continuing the discussion of gender bias. A female child may not be taken to the clinic when she is ill, even if medical services are free. The cost of taking the child is not the cost of medical care, but possibly the implied cost of dowry if the child survives to maturity. So these are inherent gender bias. Even if you make the medical facilities free, the female child may face gender bias while taking to the medical facility because of the social norms of dowry, etc. A female child may not be given education or her education may be neglected simply because education of female children is not expected to pay off in the future, and it may not lower the cost of dowry, right? So because of social norms like dowry, etc. in developing countries like India, women may face from their childhood itself health related bias and education related biases. Now another important concept is about sibling rivalry. It has been found and argued in a research work studying the country Ghana, that focused in the country Ghana. So research shows that parents in Ghana often invest less in the human capital of their daughters than their sons. Primary school enrollments are almost at par, but in the secondary school, only 28% of females between age 16 and 23 attend schooling. On the other hand, 42% of boys are enrolled. So even if parents desire to invest a given amount in their children's human capital, they may lack resources. Children must then compete with their siblings for the resources currently available to parents. So research shows that children aged 12 to 23 with 3 siblings are over 50% more likely to attend middle or secondary school when all 3 of their siblings are sisters than when the 3 are brothers. Similar results hold for health outcomes as well, and it is consistent with the idea of sibling rivalry, right? After discussing the issues of widowhood, problems of widowhood in developing countries, and the issues like sibling rivalry, we are going to talk about, let us take another question, what are the policies that have worked well for women? So now we are entering to the phase where we discuss policies, what works for women, what have worked for women, and what we need in today's context for women, right? So policy, what works and what we need. Providing clean water and sanitation. So this is a basic requirement, providing clean water and sanitation. And by providing clean water and sanitation, problems of female deaths in infancy and early childhood was prevented. Such problems were addressed long back in today's developed countries, and they have solved these issues around 1930s. But some of the developing countries are still struggling in this regard. Next, the time, the issue of women's time due to prevailing powerful social norms which are guiding women's time and dictating that women must spend more time for housework, childcare related work, then that is creating problems for female labor force participation, right? 4 main approaches can be mentioned here. Number 1, providing increasing access to childcare. Number 2, improving situations of parental leave related policies. Number 3 is about through infrastructural investments, freeing up women's time. Number 4, easing women's access to markets through technology and transport. Next issue is that, before going to the next issue, let us take an example such as the NGO mobile creches. They are experimenting with different models for providing child care related facilities in rural informal sector and in the areas of where public works are going on. Also, daycare facilities were provided in experimental basis in and around New Delhi in public construction sites. These are some of the experiments are going on by state actors and non-state actors and NGOs. Discriminatory family laws. Yes, there are improvements and achievements. We'll talk about it. But still, 15 of the 47 countries in sub-Saharan Africa still have laws that give husbands greater control over marital assets, right? Laws that vest control over marital property in the hands of the husband also remain in force in Chile, right? But yet there are some progress has been made. Progress is possible. Ethiopia, for example, reformed its family law in 2000, eliminating the husband's ability to deny his wife permission to work outside the home and requiring both spouses to agree in administering family property. Right? Such things are also happening. Next, the issue of domestic violence, very, very important point in today's context, the issue of domestic violence, intimate partner violence. How can we solve this issue? So one idea is to provide more information, free information availability, and more by enhancing bargaining power of women. So some of the programs, some of the successful programs are such as Soul City program in South Africa, and another program is Stepping Stones program. So Soul City program remained a success because it has challenged the view that intimate partner violence was a private issue. Also, the program like the Stepping Stones program in South Africa is also a success because it significantly reduced the perpetration of intimate partner violence by men. Once again, another critical issue for women is fertility decisions, right? How many children to take, right? The number and spacing of children, that's a very crucial issue for women. And there are 2 points. First, it involves boosting women's ability how to improve women's condition regarding this issue by boosting women's ability to exert bargaining power within the household. And the second policy focus may be on, it involves improving the quality of female or family planning services to the excluded groups. So one way to address this issue of fertility or how many children to take, one way by improving women's bargaining power within household, and another is to provide the delivery system regarding the family planning, especially in the marginalized and excluded groups. Collective agency of women, that's another important issue in today's context. In India, researchers have found giving power to women at the local level through political quotas led to increases in the provisioning of public goods such as water and sanitation, irrigation facilities, schools, and it has reduced corruption, right? In India and in Nepal, giving women a bigger say in managing forests significantly improved conservation outcomes of forest, right? So promoting women in the social and political arena also have shown some promising results in developing countries. Also, one important point is about shocks. Shocks have gendered differentiated impacts, right? We often miss that, right? So interventions can take many forms, including cash transfer, food stamps. So while intervening to curb the impact of some shocks, the gendered aspect must kept in mind, and interventions may happen through cash transfer, food stamps, temporary subsidies, etc. Now, the last topic, we have come to the last topic in this lecture, which is the political economy aspects. This is related to materializing the policy benefits. How to enact, how to materialize the policies we have discussed so far, right? How can we implement those policies better so that they work for good? So in this regard, political economy aspects are important. The support for such policy initiatives must be broad-based, and it is essential to build coalitions that mobilize around the reforms. Okay? For example, a self-employed women's association, Seva, Works of Seva in Gujarat in India, is a great example regarding this. They have raised issues of self-employed women in the informal sector. They have raised their issues, and they have fought with the business and government, and they have achieved successes also. Also, secondly, firms, big or small businesses, they may actually promote this compelling case for gender equality. Third, shocks and exogenous changes at times may helpfully portray these issues of gender equality. For example, in 1998, the disaster that followed Hurricane Mitch in Nicaragua facilitated a dialogue on domestic violence, a national campaign, and the enactment of legislation followed. Now, take home points. What are the take home points here? So, unequal sharing correlates with poverty. That is the first take home point. So, here we have discussed the microeconomic theory of unequal sharing within household, and we have shown how unequal sharing correlates with poverty. All right. Next, we have talked about policy issues of what works and what we need. So there we have tried to discuss as much with as much as depth that what are the policies that have worked in many countries and what else, what are the policies we need in today's context. And next, we have also talked about political economy factors, and which means broad-based coalitions are needed so that policies work better for women, right? So thank you.